Hi, I'm Grace McGinnis, and I have Luna Garcia here with me. We are undergraduate students at MSU Denver, doing a research critique on young children's physical activities in primary elementary schools. What impact does physical education lessons have for young children? Before we start, we'd like to thank our professor, Dr. Yu, in helping us with this research.
So for our presentation today, this is what we will be going over throughout the whole presentation.
Some introductions. The benefits of physical activity have always been very important for everyone. It's one of the reasons Luna and I both decided that we wanted to become physical educators. It has always been a huge deal to get adolescents and children involved in as much physical activity as possible for their physical health, not only while they're in school, but to continue that on as a lifetime goal. Now it is extremely important for both their physical and mental health. We've seen drastic changes through COVID and everything, so we know that physical activity is very important. Statistics have increased in time sharing hard information proving that physical activity is even more important now than ever. So making sure that when they are in our classrooms that we are keeping them physically active.
So the purpose of this article critique was basically just to inform the readers about the impact that physical education lessons have on children from ages 6 to 7 years old, and to provide evidence that was gained from this research. We found that they shared a lot of evidence on the specific amount of physical activity children should be participating in and why, and we will be explaining that right now.
So in this research, there were 10 participants, 5 girls and 5 boys, all around the ages of 6 and 7. In previous research, a lot of it was 8 and 9-year-olds, and so by lowering their age, we'll see a little bit of a difference there. All of the children were volunteered to participate, and from there, the class teachers chose out of 2 different hats, one for boys and one's for girls, to ensure that there was an equal number of gender, because the results do show a little bit of difference between girls and boys.
So basically, the context that we found throughout this whole research was just that the study took place at a school in a country village called Church of England. The school was awarded the Health School Mark. The school was also described as a school with a healthy school status, and a teacher had mentioned this quote right here that we pulled from the article. It says the school provides every possible opportunity for the children to reach the goals of physical activity. And I think this was very important to include in this slide, just because we're hearing this from someone on the inside, someone who sees how the children are in the during physical activity at their school. The research was a total of 36 days, 18 days that included physical education lessons, so just PE days, and that were recorded during the spring and summer terms, as well as 18 days that did not include PE days. This was just to allow for comparison between both the PE days and non-PE days.
So the way they collected this data was with an ActiSoft analysis software 3.2 system, was collected for the children. They were wearing them in the same place every time. The data analyst was the search for the truth to find out what happened in terms of physical activity levels, both within the school day and PE lessons, the potential difference in gender, and how close the children were able to get to the recommended levels of physical activity. It was monitoring their heart rate and more of the effort of the student instead of steps. The 60-second activity counts were downloaded and converted into a Microsoft Excel file for analysts of the accumulation of different intensity levels, and was imported into SPSS 17. For further, statistical analysts using repeated measures ANOVA and a statistical significance value of p less than 0.05 was used.
And the major findings we got from this research was just one of the most interesting differences between boys and girls was the significant difference in the findings of afternoon break, in particular MVPA, where boys completed significantly more, and for girls, they completed significantly more on non-PE days than PE days. Overall, the results from the student are novel, positive, and identify that young children are surprisingly active within the school day and achieve between 63% and 88% of daily recommended MVPA. And within these results, we thought that it had been proven that students do need physical education and just physical activity within their everyday lives.
So some strengths, weaknesses, and benefits of the study. A kilometer itself only weighed 1.5 ounces. And with such a small weight, it would not impact the child's normal physically active routine, just like Apple Watches or Fitbits. The data analyst was the search for the truth again, like we mentioned before, finding out what was happening in terms of physical activity levels within both the school day and the PE lessons, the potential differences in gender, and how close the children were able to get to the recommended levels. The WHO did not identify the current physical activities levels within the primary school PE lessons. So that was something we found as a weakness, is where was the starting level. Intensity also varies from person to person, and the WHO referred to intensity as how hard a person is working during a particular time of physical activity. It is at a rate at which an activity is performed. As we know, every student is their own person, and their intensity level is going to be different than the person standing next to them. The PE lessons had 2 swimming lessons, which meant that the anti-sea graph couldn't get into the water because it wasn't waterproof. So those were a few of the lessons that were excluded that could have been beneficial. Schools in England are seeing that students are physically active throughout the day, whether they're in PE, have a PE or a non-PE day. So they are getting up within the classrooms and moving throughout the day, not just sitting in a desk.
The limitations that we found within the research was intensity also varies from person to person, and the WHO referred to intensity as how hard a person is working during a particular type of physical activity. It is the rate at which the activity is performed. So between the girls and the boys, each person had a different type of different performance in their physical activity. The difference between younger students in our study, 6 through 7, and other studies of students 8 through 10, active because they are moving around the classroom. The data tracker they are using cannot track water situation. There is water lessons in their lesson, as Grace had mentioned in the last slide.
And that was the research critique we had for young children's physical activity levels in primary elementary schools, what impact does physical education lessons have for young children. Thank you.
Thank you.